10 years ago, PRS made the perfect metal guitar. This one. Unfortunately, they only made 60 of them. But luckily, now they have reissued this guitar. Well, kind of. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh coming to you from Singapore, and today we have to talk about the new 2025 PRS Custom 24 Mark Holcomb. Okay, let's talk about this. The PRS Custom 24 Mark Holcomb is, again, PRS seems to be hitting it out of the park, but again, it's a very, very exciting new guitar. And there's a very good reason for it. I'm not hiding this guitar, by the way. I realized my hand was obscuring it. PRSs are generally very good guitars for metal, but there are things that you could do to make them more suitable for metal. There is something to do with the pickups, because the original pickups in PRSs are good, but they're versatile. They're not like perfectly designed for metal. They can do metal, but this is the pickups. There is the radius, right? For metal, sometimes prefer a flatter radius. So there's that. And then there is the biggest one, actually two big ones. The scale, 25.5 inch scale, is kind of preferred for metal because it makes it easier to go down to tuning. And then a hardtail versus a tremolo, because the Custom 24 comes with a tremolo. And hardtail is often preferred for metal. Some say it's better for riffing. I don't agree. I prefer tremolo guitars, but a lot of people prefer hardtails. And of course, it's easy to shift between tunings with the hardtail, which is undeniable. So that's kind of what Mark Holcomb did when he worked with PRS to create his first signature model, the one that I'm holding here, the 60-piece run from 2015. So it was basically a Custom 24 with a longer scale length, with a hardtail, with 20-inch radius rather than 10-inch radius, and it had his pickups, the Seymour Duncan Alpha and Omega, which were kind of a mixture of high output, yet they could do great cleans. And we have to, of course, mention the aesthetics of it, because like most metal guitars, it had a satin finish. And it had this incredible color, which is the Holcomb burst, which is like a black to purple to gray. Very, very metal. And the satin bit is another bit about this particular guitar. Now, because these guitars were made in such small numbers, just 60 of them, as you can imagine, they are quite the price on the used market. In fact, I picked this one up locally from my friend. You may have seen him on this show, and he was very kind to sell it to me. In fact, he wanted to get something else at the time. Otherwise, I don't think he would have let go of it. And of course, my friend, being who he is, picked out probably, which I agree with him. He told me this is the best top outside of Mark Holcomb's own guitar, and I kind of agree. So I was very lucky to pick this one up, because these don't come up often. But now, luckily, and I'm so glad PRS have done this, they have made the Holcomb into a core model. It is very similar to this guitar, but it's not exactly the same. So let's talk about the new guitar, and let's talk about the differences. So the new guitar is in a way identical, but there are three key differences. The first difference is the top. This is a quilted maple top, and it's beautiful. The new guitar has a mango top. Now, why have they done this? It's not a functional choice. It's not even an aesthetic choice, because, quilted maple, especially good pieces of quilted maple, are just stunning. It's a very, very practical and I think a very, very smart choice. One is, quilted maple has just become too expensive now. You just can't get them, even on private stock. Even if you go and spend $11,000 to $12,000 on a PRS guitar, even on private stock, they still charge extra for quilted maple. They don't do this necessarily because they didn't used to charge extra earlier, but basically, it's just become about availability of supply. In fact, when I was ordering my private stocks earlier, when the first time I ordered a private stock, it was a no-cost option because there used to be lots of supply. And when was the last time I ordered a private stock? 2021, 22. So post-COVID, these things are just difficult to get by. So making that expensive, admittedly amazing aesthetic choice, but it was just not a practical choice on even a $5,000 guitar, because firstly, if you want to make it a core run, you just cannot guarantee that you're going to get the kind of numbers that you will need for a core run in the high quality, aesthetic quality that you get on this one. So mango is a good choice. I was quite surprised by how good it looks. One thing you have to be careful of with all of these guitars, whenever you see them on the PRS website or any dealer website, is that they look a lot better in pictures than they actually are often. And it's very much something that you need to see in real life. Quilt, for example, some quilts look amazing on the pictures, but when you see them in real life, they're not three-dimensional. They don't have movement. They rather look a little bit washed out, almost like an oversaturated photo. So this one you have to be a little bit careful. I like the top that he is playing in the video, but even if you run through the tops that they have, when you look at, for example, the gray black, or if you look at, for example, which is the one I was looking at, even the charcoal wrap around, you can tell that these are not, they're good looking pieces of wood. Again, I'm not focusing too much on the aesthetics, I'm just talking about the differences. But you really need to get, if you're expecting it to look as stunning as this thing, it's not going to. Maybe one or two of them may, but you really have to go and shop around a little bit for it. But again, I think it's an inspired choice to put, because I don't think flame would have worked on this one. And the right piece of mango can just be right, but it'll not have the same, I'm not too worried about the tonal characteristics, I'm just talking the look. I think the look is good. So that's one difference. The second difference, of course, is the pickups. These are Alpha Omegas. Those are the new, what are they called? The Scarlet and the Scourge. I believe the Alpha Omega are more overtly metal pickups. The Scarlet and the Scourge are a bit more versatile. I don't have experience with them. Personally, I am not the biggest fan of Seymour Duncan pickups. Even on this guitar, I really like the guitar, but I am not the biggest fan of the pickups. I've said this before when I reviewed this guitar many years ago when I got it. But I'm sure they'll be pretty good. And again, as I've said many times on this channel, the pickup is just a starting point. You can shape the sound in any direction you want using EQ and using processing, especially when you're recording these days. So don't worry too much about it. And I'm sure it'll be a pretty good pickup. So that's number two. Second difference. The third difference that you will see is in the hardware. So when you see this guitar, this has, and this is where I think the newer guitar kind of looks cooler. This one has a not traditional, but a standard looking like silver, not really silver, but basically nickel. Is it nickel or is it? I think it's nickel. Whatever, it has a normal silver colored bridge. The new one has the very, very cool option that you typically get on private stock PRS guitars, which is black with gold. I love that. So that's one thing I really like in the new guitars. The black and gold is a very, very cool option. It's the option that you get on private stock. So to see, I know it's a very aesthetic thing, but to see it come to life on the core guitar is a nice thing. So those are the three differences on the guitar. And the fourth difference will be the case, because now PRS no longer makes those cases that you see behind me. At least they don't do it on core, they only do it on private stock. Now you have this kind of semi, if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I was being told by folks who sell them locally, that they now come with this kind of a semi-hard soft case, kind of like what Music Man does. So that's another difference. But all in all, I think it's a very exciting new guitar. I think there are three reasons I'm very excited about it. One, it is finally democratizing the metal PRS in a way. Of course, the custom 24 Mark Holcomb SE has existed for a while, so you could just say that is the true, that is at a much cheaper price point. But there was always this inkling that there's a lot of demand for a metal PRS for a made in USA full fat core metal PRS, and to do that you had to go and buy a 12,000-13,000 private stock, or you had to somehow find one of these on the used market, and they were very difficult to find. And when they did come up, they came up for pretty high prices. So now, the good news is if you really want the guitar just for the functionality, you can get a core Mark Holcomb. Of course, if you want to get the original, now these are going to be worth even more, because now these are the original of something that has been reissued. The moment you reissue something or make something of it, then suddenly the original, especially if it's in a small quantity, it becomes more valuable. So there's that. But that doesn't matter, because functionally the new guitar and this guitar are going to be identical. If you really want the Alpha Omega pickups aren't that expensive, you can just swap them into the new guitar. Alright, so at least now you can get a core PRS metal guitar, a proper core PRS metal guitar. Some would say Tremonti is a metal guitar, but Tremonti is a very specific taste, kind of like my taste. But it doesn't have the metal ingredients other than a hot bridge pickup, because it's a single cut, which is heavy, which is not for everybody. It's a tremolo, which is not for everybody. Yes, you do get a hardtail as well, but it's a very traditional hardtail, and it's of course 25 in scale length, not 25 and a half. So the metal, you finally have a core metal PRS. Of course, the Dusty Waring is another example, but again, that's a very specific taste, I would say. Though I would say the Dusty Waring was also a good choice. The Floyd one is not for everyone, but they have the hardtail as well. But of course, Dusty Waring is not a set neck. It's a bolt on, and not everybody wants a bolt on. So there's that. So that's the first piece of good news. The second piece of good news is that you have this as an ongoing model, not a limited 60-piece run. So you have all these colors: charcoal wraparound burst, cobalt smoke burst, fire smoke burst, grey black, Holcomb blue wraparound burst, Holcomb wraparound burst, which I guess is this one, but again very dependent, and then finally purple mist. By the way, a note on purple mist, guys, it's not really purple. I have to tell you this because I have 2 or 3 purple mist guitars. They kind of look purple when you see them in the photo, especially if it's been saturated, but they're more grey. Purple mist is really a purplish grey. Just note this in case you get disappointed by how unpurple your guitar is. Just something for you to know. So there's that. The third thing which I'm hoping for is not a piece of good news, but this is a piece of news I've been wanting, is that can they finally create a core 7-string version of the Holcomb? Now that the Holcomb is a core 6-string. The 7-string core PRS has been a wet dream for a lot of metal players and a lot of people for a very long time. It has been such a dream of mine that I just could not wait. So I actually have 3 PRS private stock 7-strings because I play 7-string. I love PRSs. So I actually have gone and shelled out for found one of those rare PRS private stock 7-strings. Right? And I hope that they now, just like they've democratized the 6-string, maybe they'll bring the 7-string. I don't know. 8-string, forget about it. Of course, I have the original one of eight Holcomb, unofficial Holcomb 8-string, the PRS 8-string guitar of the month from 2016, August 2016. There's only 8 of them. I have one of those. So that's a great guitar. I do wish that comes with the core lineup. But frankly, again, the market for 8-strings, I don't know how big it is. Ultimately the market in the guitar world is mainly a Strat market, followed by a Les Paul market. And then the metal market is distant, not even third. There are probably other things which are more, and the Telecaster market. So yeah, I won't hold my breath on that one. Okay, folks, I hope this gave you some insight into the new PRS Holcomb. Love to know what you think, and I'll see you next time.